My wife, the Ice Queen CEO, thought our marriage was a humiliating business deal. She looked at me and saw a broke mechanic with a young daughter. But when the hitman broke into our home, she didn't see a mechanic. She saw the man I've spent years hiding. A man who can erase her enemies with a single phone call. Now, the mask is off. The first time I saw Olivia Grayson cry, there was blood on the marble floor of her penthouse and a dead man's phone vibrating beside my shoe. Not one of the intruders. Mine. The screen kept lighting up with the same notification. Asterisk asterisk JULIANHARRINGTON. Market OPEN confirmation REQUIRED asterisk asterisk. The problem was, Julian Harrington had officially died 3 years earlier. Olivia was standing near the kitchen island with Maya wrapped against her chest. The overhead lights reflected off the broken glass walls behind her. Cold wind pushed through the apartment. Somewhere downstairs, car alarms were screaming into the Manhattan rain. She wasn't looking at the bodies. She was staring at me. At the gun in my hand. At the phone. At the realization that the man she married 6 months earlier had never existed. I remember the smell most clearly. Gunpowder. Wet concrete drifting in from the balcony. And Olivia's perfume mixing with the metallic scent in the air. She asked me one question that night. Not who are you? Not what happened. Just, how long have you been lying to me? I didn't answer her. Because the truth was worse than the lie. The dead men in our apartment weren't there for Olivia. They were there because somebody had discovered I was still alive. And Olivia's grandfather had known that from the beginning. Before all of that, my world was intentionally small. A repair shop in Red Hook. Oil stains on concrete floors. A rusted coffee machine that hissed louder than the radiator. Maya coloring quietly in the office while I rebuilt transmissions in silence. Most people never looked at mechanics twice. That was useful. At night, after Maya fell asleep on the cot behind my office desk, I'd lock the garage doors and open a different laptop hidden beneath the floorboards. Encrypted channels. Asian futures markets. Currency fluctuations. Shipping disruptions in Singapore. Military fuel contracts. Entire governments moved slower than those numbers did. Then one afternoon, Walter Grayson walked into my garage wearing a navy overcoat that probably cost more than my building lease. He watched me work for almost 10 minutes before speaking. No introductions. No small talk. Just the soft hum of fluorescent lights overhead and the ticking of a cooling engine between us. He told me somebody was preparing to destroy his granddaughter. Not financially. Personally. The attacks against Grayson Logistics were becoming coordinated. Lawsuits. Port delays. Anonymous leaks. Executives disappearing to competitors overnight. Walter said Olivia was too aggressive to see the danger clearly. Then he looked toward Maya sleeping in the office chair. And he mentioned my real name. Quietly. Like a man testing whether a loaded gun was still dangerous. I remember my hand stopping completely. Oil dripping from my fingers onto the concrete. No one was supposed to know who I was. Walter did. He told me he could guarantee permanent protection for Maya. New identities. Federal insulation. Clean records. In exchange, I would marry Olivia. Not for love. For proximity. For protection. For war. I accepted before he finished explaining the details. That should have bothered me more than it did. The wedding itself lasted 11 minutes. Private rooftop ceremony. Winter wind. City lights reflecting off the East River. Olivia barely looked at me. Her jaw stayed tight through the entire thing, like she was enduring a legal procedure instead of a marriage. Afterward, she moved me into her penthouse overlooking Midtown. 42 floors above the city. Everything inside felt cold enough to preserve bodies. White marble. Steel fixtures. Silent hallways. Even the refrigerator hummed too loudly. We lived like co-workers forced into the same hotel suite. She worked late. I stayed invisible. The only time she acknowledged me directly was when Maya was involved. Olivia was unexpectedly gentle with her. That confused me. Women like Olivia Grayson usually treated vulnerability like contamination. But sometimes I'd wake around 2 in the morning and find Olivia sitting at the kitchen counter in darkness, staring at financial reports on her tablet while Maya slept against her shoulder. In those moments, she looked exhausted instead of powerful, human instead of dangerous. Then small things started bothering me. A black SUV parked outside the tower 3 nights in a row. The same man appearing twice in lobby reflections. Olivia receiving flowers with no card attached. A deleted voicemail notification on her office phone at 3:11 a.m. And once, while she showered before a board meeting, her laptop lit up beside me on the dining table. A hidden calendar notification appeared for less than 2 seconds. *** Luxembourg call. Confirm TRANSFERCHANNEL***. She closed the laptop too quickly afterward. I didn't mention it. But that was the moment I started wondering whether Walter Grayson had lied to me about who needed protection. The Winter Foundation Gala happened 3 weeks later. Upper Manhattan. Crystal chandeliers. String quartet music drifting through rooms full of people pretending not to hate each other. Olivia wore a silver dress that made the entire room track her movement without realizing it. I stayed near the edges. That was always safer. Then Thomas Blackwood approached us. Tall, calm, expensive smile. The kind of man who touched people's shoulders while threatening them. He looked at me like I was furniture. I already knew his file by memory. Private shipping monopolies. Political donations routed through shell firms. 3 unresolved SEC investigations. 2 witnesses dead from accidents. But what caught my attention wasn't Thomas. It was Olivia. Her breathing changed the second she saw him. Subtle. Barely visible. Fear. Real fear. Thomas kept smiling while discussing acquisition numbers with her. From a distance, it probably looked civilized. Up close, it felt surgical. Then he glanced toward Maya beside the dessert table. That was enough for me. I leaned toward him and quietly mentioned the Luxembourg accounts tied to his offshore debt transfers. Nothing dramatic. Just facts. Account numbers. Dates. 1 transaction routed through a dead holding company in Cyprus. The color drained from his face so fast it looked physical. And for the first time since our marriage, Olivia stared at me like she didn't recognize the man standing beside her. The gala ended early. On the drive home, rain crawled across the windows while the city blurred outside in red and white streaks. Olivia kept looking at my hands on the steering wheel. Mechanic hands. Scarred knuckles. Oil stains that never fully disappeared. Finally, she asked where I learned about offshore banking structures. I told her I read a lot. She didn't believe me. After that night, things shifted between us. Not warmer. More careful. She started watching me the same way I watched exits in crowded rooms. Then the inconsistencies multiplied. A hidden second phone inside her office drawer. Burner numbers calling after midnight. Security footage missing 23 minutes from the garage level. And Maya mentioning a sad man who sometimes waited near her school. I checked the school cameras myself. Gray coat. Baseball cap. Never facing the lens directly. Professional surveillance behavior. That same night, I accessed Olivia's private company server remotely. I expected evidence against Blackwood. Instead, I found restricted financial authorizations approved under Olivia's credentials. Millions disappearing through layered shipping contracts. The routing patterns were sophisticated enough to avoid federal monitoring. But familiar. Painfully familiar. I'd built similar systems years earlier. Before I disappeared. Before my wife died. I stared at the numbers until sunrise while the air conditioning buzzed softly through the apartment. One conclusion kept returning no matter how I rearranged the data. Olivia wasn't being targeted. She was participating. I confronted Walter Grayson first. Not directly. I visited his estate in Connecticut without warning. Old money house. Quiet staff. Clocks ticking in empty hallways. Walter looked tired when he opened the study door. Older than I remembered. I placed printed transaction records across his desk. Luxembourg transfers. Ghost corporations. Political bribes routed through maritime insurance fronts. He didn't even look surprised. Just disappointed. Then he finally explained. Olivia had inherited control instincts from her father. After his death, she became obsessed with protecting Grayson Logistics from hostile takeovers. Somewhere along the line, protection turned into manipulation. Corporate espionage. Bribery. Illegal market pressure. Walter insisted she never intended violence. But Thomas Blackwood discovered the financial structure and started blackmailing her. That was the real war. Not acquisition. Exposure. Walter claimed he brought me into the family because Olivia needed someone powerful enough to neutralize Blackwood without destroying the company publicly. A guardian. A shield. I almost believed him. Honestly, it fit everything. The hidden transfers. The paranoia. The fear at the gala. Even Olivia's emotional distance suddenly made sense. She wasn't cold. She was drowning. That night, I returned to the penthouse intending to end it quietly. Take Maya. Disappear again. Instead, I found Olivia asleep on the living room couch beneath the blue glow of market projections still moving across the television. One spreadsheet remained open on her laptop. Projected employee layoffs. Over 18,000 jobs. She'd been trying to keep the company alive, not enrich herself. For the first time, I felt guilty for suspecting her. Then her phone vibrated on the glass table. Unknown number. One image attached. Maya leaving school earlier that afternoon. Timestamped. Followed by a message. Why are you married? Wrong man. The attack came 40 minutes later. The power died first. Then the emergency lights activated in dim red strips along the hallway floor. Maya woke immediately. Children always sense danger faster than adults. The elevator alarm stopped. Silence filled the apartment. Not normal silence. The kind that feels arranged. I smelled rain coming through the broken ventilation seal near the balcony doors. Then I heard footsteps. Measured. Professional. 3 people minimum. Olivia reached for her phone. I stopped her. No police. Too slow. The first man entered through the service corridor carrying a suppressed weapon. The second came through the kitchen. The third never made it past the hallway. After years underground, the body remembers violence faster than the mind does. Movement became automatic. Angles. Timing. Breathing. The sounds were short and ugly. Muffled impacts. Glass cracking. A choking gasp near the staircase. Then stillness. Olivia stood frozen beside Maya while red emergency lights pulsed across the walls. She looked at me like she was seeing an autopsy result. Not a husband. A classified file. That's when my phone started vibrating beside the body near the kitchen island. JULIANHARRINGTON market OPEN confirmation REQUIRED. Dead men shouldn't receive alerts. But mine did. And Olivia saw everything. After the attack, there was no reason to continue pretending. I told Olivia the public version first. That Julian Vance was fake. That my real name was Julian Harrington. That 3 years earlier someone attempted to assassinate my wife, and me during a private flight over Colorado. The plane crashed. My wife died. I survived with Maya and disappeared before the people behind it could finish the job. Officially, I remained dead. Unofficially, I rebuilt my financial network through proxies and offshore structures while hiding in plain sight. Olivia listened without interrupting. The city lights reflected across shattered glass behind her. Rainwater crept slowly across the marble floor. Then she asked the question I wasn't prepared for. How did my grandfather know you were alive? I told her I didn't know. That was the first lie I said that night. Because deep down, I already understood the answer. Walter Grayson had never found me accidentally. He had been monitoring me for months before approaching my garage. And once I realized that, other details started rearranging themselves into something much darker. The hidden calendar notifications. The Luxembourg transfers. The surveillance outside Maya's school. The attack team entering our apartment without bypassing biometric security. Someone inside the Grayson network had allowed them access. Not Blackwood. Someone closer. The next morning, I accessed Walter's private archives through a dormant server node tied to Grayson Logistics. I found hundreds of encrypted documents, acquisition plans, surveillance reports, private investigators, and one folder labeled simply HARRINGTONRECOVRYPROJECT. Inside were photographs of me spanning nearly 2 years, outside Maya's school, inside my repair shop, at grocery stores, traffic camera captures, bank monitoring reports. Walter Grayson had orchestrated my reentry long before our marriage. But the deeper shock came from the final document. A psychiatric assessment. Mine. Prepared after the plane crash. I read it 3 times before my hands stopped shaking. According to the report, the assassination attempt that killed my wife was never confirmed. Because investigators believed I caused the crash myself during a paranoid psychotic episode. I sat alone in Walter's office while rain hit the windows in soft static bursts. The leather chair creaked every time I breathed. At first, I thought the report was fabricated. Then I noticed the physician's signature. Dr. Leonard Pike. The same therapist I secretly visited for 6 months after Maya started having nightmares about airplanes. Except Dr. Pike wasn't treating Maya. He was evaluating me. That's when the final pattern locked into place. Walter didn't recruit me because I was dangerous. He recruited me because I was controllable. I confronted Walter that evening. No security. No lawyers. Just the 2 of us in his study while thunder rolled somewhere over Connecticut. He admitted everything calmly. Too calmly. Years earlier, after the crash, intelligence contractors flagged me as psychologically unstable but exceptionally useful. My financial systems, political leverage, and offshore networks were too valuable to lose completely. Walter helped bury the investigation. Helped preserve my hidden empire. Helped construct Julian Vance. In exchange, he gained access to my resources whenever necessary, including protection for Olivia. The marriage wasn't about love, or even loyalty. It was containment. Walter believed proximity to family would stabilize me. Then he said something that hollowed the room out completely. The men in your apartment weren't sent by Blackwood. I remember the grandfather clock ticking behind him. Slow. Heavy. Like a countdown. Walter explained that Thomas Blackwood had actually been cooperating with him privately for months. The financial attacks against Grayson Logistics were partially staged. Pressure creates dependency. Dependency creates obedience. The intruders were hired to test me, to see whether the old instincts still existed beneath the Julian Vance identity, whether I was still operational. I asked him if Maya was ever truly in danger. Walter hesitated. That hesitation answered everything. But the final truth came from Olivia. She had been standing outside the study door the entire time. I heard her heels against the hardwood floor before I saw her reflection in the window. She looked exhausted. Not shocked. Not betrayed. Exhausted. Then she admitted the part I never imagined. She already knew who I was before the wedding. Walter told her everything. Not because she needed protection from Blackwood. Because she needed protection from me. After the plane crash investigation, there was one detail authorities never released publicly. My wife's body was recovered with sedatives in her bloodstream. Enough to impair judgment. Enough to prevent resistance. Walter believed I caused the crash during a psychological break tied to financial paranoia and persecution delusions. Olivia married me because Walter thought emotional attachment might prevent another collapse. That was the real contract. Not protection. Supervision. I remember staring at Olivia while cold rain crawled down the study windows behind her. Every moment between us changed shape inside my head. The careful distance. The late-night observations. The silent watching. She wasn't learning to trust me. She was monitoring me. Then Olivia quietly placed a folder on Walter's desk. Federal documents. Recent toxicology reports. Recovered aviation maintenance records. Proof that the original crash had actually been sabotaged by contractors connected to Blackwood years earlier. Walter had known the evidence existed and hid it from me. Because as long as I believed I might have killed my wife, I remained obedient. Manageable. Broken enough to control. Walter Grayson wasn't protecting Olivia from me. He was protecting himself from what I would become if I ever learned the truth. The room went silent after that. No shouting. No threats. Just rain. The soft buzz of old lights. Walter looking suddenly smaller behind his desk. Olivia watching me carefully. Like someone standing beside unexploded machinery. I left the estate before sunrise. Took Maya. Burned every remaining Vance identity by noon. 3 days later, Thomas Blackwood vanished from every corporate board connected to Grayson Logistics. 2 federal investigations reopened quietly. Walter Grayson retired within the month. Officially for health reasons. Unofficially because every financial protection around him disappeared overnight. Olivia never asked me to come back. But sometimes I still receive encrypted market alerts routed through the private channel only she knows. No messages. No names. Just timestamps. Proof she's still watching. And some nights, when the apartment above my new office creaks in the wind, I still think about the first question she asked me beside those bodies on the marble floor. How long had I been lying to her? The truth is, I still don't know.